So we were led to believe that this section of talks was about technological advancements in the capital markets, but having just heard someone talk about manipulation and collusion and the question before about a natural sense of entitlement, I genuinely wonder whether this is just about my teenage daughter. We'll try and bring it back to technological advancements here. Really delighted to be joined by you, Marianne, for the next 15 minutes. For those of you who don't know who you are and don't know very much about Swift, maybe we could just start with an introduction to yourself and to Swift.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I'm Marianne Demarchi. I'm indeed Chief Executive of ICMA at Swift. I've joined Swift 2 years ago. And before, I have a background in financial markets, so Euronext for 15 years and BNP Paribas Asset Management in executive roles, business development, and then running a fintech in payments. So Swift, I don't know if you all know what Swift is. So it's very much known in the cross-border payments part, but you have to know also that half of our activity is also linked to securities, securities settlement. So Swift is a cooperative based in La Hulpe in Belgium, headquartered in Belgium, but we are present in many, many different countries. We are our mission is to connect the world, so the economic world and the financial world, so helping corporations, financial institutions, investors, but also consumers to receive and send payments, to trade internationally, to invest in securities and so on. We connect 11,500 financial institutions, and we are present in about 230 countries altogether.
So you obviously play a very key role in the financial markets. Could you tell us a little bit about your current priorities and initiatives and what you're focusing on right now?
Sure. So our strategy is to make sure that we enable the markets, so our banking community, financial community, to be able to send and receive cross-border payments, but also transactions, securities transactions, as seamlessly as possible. So we have really an instant and frictionless strategy, so that the cross-border payments are as easy, seamless, and transparent and efficient as domestic ones. So we have, so to support our strategy, we have delivered several solutions to enable the market to make sure that indeed we can pre-validate the transactions, we can give end-to-end transparency, we can provide data integrity, we can provide instant and frictionless transactions. And among all of these priorities and solutions we have delivered, we have focused also on the securities industry. You know that the securities industry in the post-trade settlement, there's of course a lot of progress and a lot of innovations that have been through the past decades. We have now really STP markets on the post-trade, but still there's still some inefficiencies that cost the industry about 3 billion a year. So those inefficiencies can be, for instance, what we see on a frequent basis on our network. We have differences of instructions between payment, the buyers and the sellers, so that may lead to settlement fails. And here we ensure to give this data integrity, traceability, and end-to-end transparency through our product, which is Securities View, and leverage on the UTI, unique identifier, transaction identifier, that is really crucial to help the market have less inefficiencies and less settlement fails.
Thank you. And I think one of the things that's so interesting about you is your approach to new innovations and how you'll experiment with new things and try and learn about them by doing. Could you tell us a bit about your experimentation within the tokenization space?
Yeah, sure. So aside all the major solutions that we have delivered to the market to enhance efficiency, we are also innovating a lot. And we are innovating to acknowledge that the industry in payments, but the securities industry as well, is going to, and is already fragmented, and is going to fragment even more because of geopolitical reasons for payments, but also due to technology innovation. So we have to acknowledge that, and in particular, for instance, on the tokenized assets, but also on the CBDCs, we see that we will probably see a lot of those platforms, especially tokenized. We have a lot of tokenized assets platforms, mainly held by banks, but others as well. And we want to make sure that all these tokenized asset platforms are not digital islands, what we like to call them, so isolated from one to another, but also from those platforms to the traditional industry, securities business. So we want to make sure that they can connect and interact with each other. So what we have done in the tokenized asset space is that we have provided interoperability. So our main innovation will be on further innovation will be on making sure that we provide connectivity and interoperability between the different tokenized asset platforms that may arise, between the different those tokenized asset platforms and the traditional exchanges or traditional platforms. And the same also goes for CBDCs and the traditional payment system.
And I think what's so interesting about it is that you're not a stance, you're completely agnostic, but what you're doing is saying, well, whatever comes, we'll be ready for it. And I think it's a really, really interesting approach and the right one. There are obviously pressures to optimize the efficiency of post-trade and the global trend towards T+1. So also very interested to hear about what you see your role in that as being.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, T+1 is a major event. It's a major evolution. We've seen some markets already. India has moved to T+1, and this weekend it's the US and Canada, right, that moved to T+1. So, and this can have some major implications, because on our network, for instance, 30% of all the payments instruction end up in the US, and so it will have some implications. Well, now our role is to ensure that because all these instruction messages goes on the SWIFT network, that we are there to make sure that there will not be any issues. So we have heightened our support. We have freezed also any evolution on our messaging system and our network. So to make sure that we'll be there to support the community. We don't anticipate that much of increase in terms of volumes, maybe plus 6-7% in some of the first days. There will be a peak probably on the 29th. So because there will be then the T+2 transactions that will be settled, but also the T+1 transactions that will be settled. So there will be a peak, but we'll of course absorb all these additional volumes.
You sound like you're always busy and always innovating and always getting ready for the next thing. Are we allowed a bit of a sneak peek into what your future holds and the future innovations that you're looking at trying to combat?
Sure. So globally, what we are trying to achieve, as I said, is instant and frictionless and transaction integrity, transparency end-to-end, also on the securities business. So knowing that and taking into account that there will be many different payments platforms, payment systems, but also trading venues and settlement systems. We want to make sure that we will be the glue, we continue to be the glue of the industry. So connecting all these, as I said, trading platforms and payment systems, so that all the financial institutions are able to reuse their SWIFT infrastructure and connect to any type of trading venues that they or payment systems that they wish to trade on or to use. Also, one aspect is everything linked to resiliency. We have resiliency, trust, availability is our core DNA, and this is where we invest a lot. We need to make sure that we can sustain all the evolution, the developments, the growth of the system, of the industry, the fragmentation of the industry, and so forth. So we invest a lot in this, and you also need to know that every 3 days there's the world GDP on our platform, on our network. So, I mean, resiliency, availability, trust is something we are really taking very seriously, and we are investing a lot in.
You make it all sound very easy. What is the biggest challenge with trying all of these new things with all of the core components that you need to sort of respect as you go along through that? Where's the difficulty really?
Well, I think there's 2 different challenges that we have. We are a platform. I mean, our model is the platform economy, right? So we are really linked to network effects. So whenever we bring something to the market, to the financial community, we need everyone to use it. Otherwise, it doesn't reap the benefit. I mean, no one's reaped the benefit. If you use a solution to pre-validate your transaction, or to use the UTI and securities view to make sure where the trade is, and if nobody uses it, well, it's useless. So we have this adoption challenge that we need to make sure that we really have the community behind, and everything we deliver has been validated by the financial community. And we are bank owned, so validated by our board members who happen to be banks. So we need to have the adoption. So this is the first challenge. The second challenge is also when we innovate, we innovate in a sandbox, for instance, like we've done with CBDCs or tokenized assets. We need to productize, and whenever this challenge of from an innovation to a real product that will be used by everyone, this is also a challenge.
Well, I work in a law firm and I'm trying to convince people to use legal tech, so I face many of the same challenges. I understand them. What I find most fascinating about you personally and your role is that you are really responsible always for innovating and rising to new challenges. And I'm just curious to know how you educate yourself and how you prepare yourself to deal with all of the evolutions that the financial markets are throwing at you.
Well, thanks for your question. I mean, it's really, first of all, we have fantastic teams, really. I mean, we have really experts in many domains, and I'm really fed by all the teams and all the research we do. I personally read a lot. I read a lot of papers. I like the BIS papers. I like the FMI papers, many of the industry-specific papers. So I read a lot. I listen to many podcasts as well, and I listen to some replays of conferences. I learn a lot from the others as well, from interacting. And I think it's key because I've changed a lot in my career. I've been at Euronext, and I was responsible for business development for the cash markets there. I created the ETF market. I launched the ETF markets on Euronext. And then I completely changed, and I went to BNP Paribas Asset Management management, where I had to relearn also a lot of things, and I led the sales there for the big networks, banking networks we had, and I just arrived 1 week before Lehman, so we had to rebuild everything, and then I switched completely, and I went to a fintech, and where I was leading, you know, all 400 engineers, and so I had to also learn a lot of very different culture. Also, I was in the tech, which I was not before. So I think challenging yourself is also where you learn a lot. And the same at Swift, I had to, you know, you have some learning curve, and I had to also challenge myself. So learning, I mean, reading, listening to others, interacting with others, and challenging yourself, I think it's very important.
Well, I wish my teenage daughter had been here to listen to you and to get some of that, and particularly some of your guiding principles at Swift. So resilience, transparency, trust, integrity. I've written it all down. I'll take it back to her and I'll see what she's got to say. But thank you very much for talking to us about some of the innovations at Swift, and actually about the innovations within your own career.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.